Yo, JD here, TSRL Limitless, and as you can see, back with some league racing once again on F1 2020. And it's been a while since I've uploaded a TSRL league race because of esports. Been very busy recently. The whole of last week was just esports related, and I think I am a couple of races behind. So when I do the live stream this Friday, which is at Baku, unfortunately, I would have already done this race obviously and Monaco that I've done. So rewinding into this stage, a very good start to this championship. Last race was Zandvoort that I uploaded in TSRL, and I was on pole position there, but then had a huge amount of issues with my wheel, the game itself, and I ended up not finishing that race or not getting any points whatsoever. So that was really unfortunate. But moving into Spain here, it's quite difficult, this track. I've always found it very tough. But if you look at the weather, 5 minutes until rain is due to come. And you can see from the first lap I did in Q1, that was enough for me to get through. Pace felt very good around here, actually. In fact, really good. I did a couple of 13.7s, 13.8s. And usually going through Q1 and Q2, all I care about is just getting through on the least amount of tyres possible and trying to save as many as I can. But you can see by the weather, it's a bit unexpected because the weather system in this game is actually quite unpredictable. Although it tells you a certain time, the rain could come at any time. Around this track, the soft to hard strategy is very difficult to pull off due to the tyre wear. The risk of a puncture is very high. But it said it was going to rain in 5 minutes. So instead of doing a lap on the mediums for Q2, I decided to go out in the soft, put in a 14.5, which is fairly solid. Just trying to minimise the wear as much as I could. So on the out laps, I didn't really generate any temperature or anything at all. But I went back into the pits, currently P3 provisionally, and went out on the mediums again. And the best time I ever did on a medium was a 14.3, believe it or not, which, as crazy as that sounds. But as I said in my soft lap, I was just trying not to take out any life of those tyres, because those tyres from Q2, if you get through to Q3, that's what you have to start on. But coming across line here, it's a 14.7, so only 2 tenths down on the medium tyre. And this was incredibly frustrating because towards the end of the session, you can see we came home in P5 there, but you can see Martin Syra did a 14.8, 14.9, JQB 14.6. 14.7 would have got me through into Q3. So it's frustrating, but to be honest, I don't really regret my decision, because if I would have bottled that lap and it would have rained, then I would have been like P15, P16 or something like that. So that's happened to me before, and that's why I wanted to be very safe on it. I just wanted to make sure I got through to Q3. So, but you can see by the weather once again, it's due to rain very quickly, and you saw that in Q2. It said it was going to rain after 5 minutes, but it didn't whatsoever, only towards the end of the session. Now it's starting to spit, and I am the first car out on track, so this is a very good prime position for me to be in, and I've got to maximise this as much as I can, because so far I haven't been off the front row this season in TSRL, so we've been incredibly consistent. So coming off the last corner, I'm going to start probably the only lap I get to do in this session, because the rain, you can see the oversteer really spitting me out. The rain is getting harder and harder, and the track will soon be intermediate conditions. So coming into the unknown, the first car, the advantage that the track is going to be probably at its driest, but you have no idea how the track is going to be. So going through here, I am being extremely cautious right now. And on this lap itself, I think I was just a little bit too cautious, because I thought to myself, these are going to be the best track conditions probably, unless it stays like this the entire session. I just want to get through the lap and not invalidate it, because I've done that at Monaco before in Q3 where it rained after a few minutes and I invalidated and I had to start P10. I didn't want to do the same thing, especially since I'm going to have to start the race on the soft tyre, where my rivals like JQB, Syra and Martin are all going to be on the much preferred and quicker strategy of the medium tyre, which the medium to hard strategy is so much faster than the soft to hard, because it's just barely doable to do on the soft to hard due to the tyre wear. But going through this up here, I would say nothing special whatsoever. It was just a case of just making sure I get round. So I wasn't really trying to push it too hard. I just wanted to make sure I didn't invalidate, I didn't spin or anything at all. But coming off this last corner, you probably hear me say that I wasn't too happy with that. You can see by my face that I wasn't that impressed. So I didn't know that was going to be enough. But VRT Dom doesn't beat it. But towards the end of the session, Jakey B did manage to beat that. But we do have a big buffer to everyone else behind. And before the end of this video, I have to give a huge shout out to Gravity, the main sponsor and supporter of my channel. This is the best place to buy and sell Bitcoin in the UK, or if you're in Europe. This is something, a little bit of a hobby of mine that I've been involved with in the past few years, and they've been a huge supporter of me. If this is something you want to get involved in, then please check the referral link down below. So Jakey B and myself are the only ones who managed to do good laps, but you can see in the formation lap here, Jakey B's got to start on the mediums because he got through that in Q2. Martin is the next one in P5. And this puts me in a really not a great position for the race. It's going to be very, very hard to beat these medium runners. And you'll be able to see on this lap here, wear is such a big tyre wear. It's just such a big thing for this race. So on the formation lap, I decided really not to try and generate any wear. And you can see by the tyre temperatures here, those are very, very cold tyres. Normally you want to get that towards the high 80s, 90s. But as we've got 4 lights, 5 lights here, trying to get a good start as they go out now, but our tyres are just too cold from that formation lap. And you can see we've been jumped by VRT Dom. Jakey B even gets a better start on the harder compound of the mediums. And you can just see the understeer I have going into turn 1. The tyres are just not up to temperature, and turning into here, the car just washes away from me, and KJ Gamer just gets a very, very good run on me going to here. So going into, I think, turn 4, trying to hold it around the outside, but we still don't have any heat or temperature into these tyres. And there is just nothing I could do here. There really was nothing I could do. And again, I just didn't want to take out the wear, because you could easily put in another 2 or 3% wear on these tyres. So I'd rather have a tyre that can last the first stint and then be quite competitive on the hards, rather than a tyre that's going to get a puncture and be at more risk. So I've lost 2 positions there. But the only good thing for me is that VRT Dom has actually taken the lead ahead of Jakey B. But now I have the 2 medium runners of Syra and Martin behind me. And after a few laps, only a few laps, the mediums should be the quicker tyres. So my tyres are starting to get up to temperature now towards the end of the lap. But at the start of the lap, I literally had no turning whatsoever. It just felt like a cargo ship going through there. But the race is still here. We still got a good chance, and I knew how fast I was around this track. On race pace, I'd probably say it was up there with Zandvoort, which I was so disappointed I couldn't do Zandvoort, because I felt like my pace in qualifying and the race is the best. That was the best it ever been on this game, and I just couldn't show it. So I was still a bit frustrated after losing a lot of points there, and when I think I could have got really, really big points. But coming towards the end of the stint now, KJ is starting to fade a little bit, because his tyres, I think he warmed them up properly, and he's probably going to have a lot more wear. But now I'm coming under pressure from V Syra, who has joined this league, one of the best drivers on Xbox here. So I've got to defend my place into turn 1 here. Martin's actually fell back ever so slightly, and now we just got to try and just pressurise him as much as I can. But towards the end of lap 9, this is the time that I was thinking of pitting, and you can see the tyre indicator is actually orange, so the wear is significantly high at this point during the race. And you can just see Syra is just all over me right now. So we need to get on these hard tyres and try and prevent the overcut. In fact, as you can see, my tyre wear was really, really high there. Pretty high risk of actually getting a puncture as well. But the overcut is actually a genuine threat, because the hard tyres are just so slow. And these mediums are still going to be good for a good amount of laps, as I almost go to the back of KJ and make a little bit of contact with Syra as well. And that was just me completely missing my braking point or whatsoever there. But I am due to pit at the end of this lap. But going into the chicane, going for the right-hander, it's KJ who's completely lost the car. So going into here, we've gone up into the podium position. I think I'm going to pit now, but he cuts across the chicane. And this is really impacted my race, because we were not able to go flat out into that pit lane box, and we're about to see it from his perspective, because I can confirm that KJ Gamer had a puncture, and you can see his front left has got a complete puncture. So go through to his right-hander. He's just got to lose control of the car. Doesn't do a 360, but he decides to just cut the chicane at almost full speed. He's got a 5-second penalty because of that, and that has really hampered me going into the pits, because I wasn't able to take that flat out. I know I'd say I lost about a second and a half going into there. So
lost so much time there.
At that point, I just really wasn't happy with that, because I was talking about the threat of the medium runners of JQB, Syra, Martin actually even overcutting me. Not me undercutting them. Them actually pulling the gap. That is a massive kick in the teeth now. So coming out of here now, we've actually got BGG Clone, who I don't know is pitted yet, but it's crucial that we get out ahead of him, because if we were behind him, that would take us completely out of this race. But what I was saying before is that we really needed to try and limit the damage from the overcut, because of what KJ did cutting across the chicane. That has really hurt my chances. And you can see coming out of here, lap 13, VRT Oxtes has actually come out, and he's not that far behind, and he has about 4 lap fresher tyres than me as well. So he's in the Red Bull, and he could be a threat towards the end of this race. But coming towards the end of lap 13 now, I'm actually starting to close in on VRT Dom, who I think went an extra lap as well. So he's got a lap fresher tyres than me. So everyone, all my competition has fresher tyres than me at this point in the race. And you can see coming out of here, Syra has gone into turn 1. Now he's into turn 2. He has done that overcut that we were talking about, and that certainly was not helped by KJ Gamer cutting across the chicane. That really didn't help my race, but I'm pushing so hard now. And now Martin has done the overcut of me as well. So this race is not looking good. It's so hard. From lap 9 onwards, it is touch and go to get to the end of the race on a hard tyre. That's how bad the tyres are. And they have about 5 to 6 lap fresher tyres than me. And they should just be faster at this point towards the end of the race. And especially at the end of the race, they will be much faster. And you can see JKB, Syra, and VRT Dom Martin. Everyone ahead of me here is all on fresher tyres, with Dom on 1 lap fresher, and then the rest on about 4 to 5 lap fresher tyres than me. So I'm just doing my best right now to hang on as much as I can, because this is not easy. They're just going to have much better traction, and as the race goes on, the bigger the gap is going to be between myself and them in terms of performance. So I'm trying to launch an attack on Tyrrell Martin now, because I know I'm not going to get too many opportunities here as KJ retires from the race. With the DRS as well, with the tyre disadvantage, I'm just going to have to pray for an absolute miracle to get past any one of these drivers. But Martin's actually going to get past VRT Dom, because he's on much fresher tyres than him, and now I should have a chance myself on him. So it's lap 19 of this race, and we need to get a position, because we are really in net P5 in this race at the moment. So it's from start of P2. It was just incredibly frustrating, very frustrating. But again, in Q2, I wouldn't really be too harsh on myself on making that decision, because the rain and the weather could have come down at any time, and I could have been starting in an even worse position. But a few laps later, we managed to get the run of VRT Dom, and despite having a little bit of the tyre disadvantage, we get the move done on him here. And I think we're going to stay on board for the next 3 laps of this race, because I think these laps were probably the fastest and the most impressive laps that I did of this race so far. Because I know I keep going on about tyres and stuff, but to even have a lap fresher tyre, fresher tyres than someone else around this track is a huge advantage. And I think VRT Dom, VRT Oxtes, and the 4 people ahead, or the 3 people ahead, all have a tyre advantage on me. So for me to be driving at this speed that I'm about to do now for the next 3 laps, and this is the way I was driving towards the whole end of the race, I honestly think this is probably the best I've driven on this game so far. Even better than the laps I was doing at Vietnam, when I managed to win that race by quite a big distance. Due to the circumstances here, and just on the back seat I am here, I was really happy with the laps that I'm doing. You can see we're almost out of that DRS zone of VRT Dom already, and coming across the line, it's going to be a 1:17.9, but we did have the aid of DRS, and the gap has gone from 2 seconds down to 1.8 seconds. So if I could get in the DRS zone of these guys up ahead, I still have a chance to even get a podium in this race, and that is what I wanted. I wanted to take advantage of a mistake up on the lead group here. So coming into here, going about 3 tenths down because we didn't have the DRS on that occasion. You can see the gap is extending to the cars behind. It was 4 seconds to Oxford, now it's 4.2, and I'm just pushing as hard as I can here. And as great as this is, my tyres are not going to be in a good condition at the end of this race, because you pushing this hard and at this speed is going to be wearing them out very quickly. The gap is about 9 tenths of a second behind now, and the gap is about maintained to 1.8, 1.9 seconds. But it is through this last sector that I was just driving so well, and you can see we gained about 2 tenths just through that corner alone. But this last sector used to be an Achilles heel for me, but on this game, we just have a very good rhythm going through here, and the gap is almost out of the DRS zone. Pulled another half a second on the Red Bull in 6th place, and did a purple last sector here. But I think it was this lap. It was definitely my favourite lap that I've done in the races. So the gap is about 1.7 up behind, still about 7 tenths, because he did have the benefit of DRS going down this main straight. But I think to just be on these highs and to do this kind of speed was, even in practice, I wasn't going this fast. I was driving on a different level for myself at this time, and I think if you compare it to the social race that I won, at this point I'm driving about 7 tenths of that faster than at that point. And I think if I was on the same tyres as the guys up ahead, we'd be closing in pretty quickly. And you can see we gained about 4 tenths on Martin's lap so far, out of the second window now, and the gap is now 5 seconds to Oxtez, and doing a purple middle sector despite being on these tyres for about 17 laps or something. I was just driving like my life depended on it right now, because I just wanted to get in this DRS zone. If I could get in this DRS zone, then we have a chance of benefiting from a mistake, or if someone gets a penalty. And I'm just pushing so hard, and it's a 17-1 without DRS on these lap tyres. It was just, yeah, I was really happy with myself. But at this stage, this is where the tyres are really starting to suffer. Almost pulled out 2 seconds to Dom behind at this point, and continuing that gap to the cars behind. But right now, despite my best efforts, the tyres are just not in good enough shape to catch the C group. And you can see we're being very consistent, but there really is nothing we could do unless they started battling quite a lot. I'm using all of my ERS. You can see the tyre indicator has already turned yellow. We can see already on 60%. We've still got 3 laps of this race to go. And again, that's purely because of how hard I've pushed this tyre. A 17.3 now. And I think we're going to listen to Jeff to see if anyone's got a penalty up ahead.
I need them to battle.
And Jeff has told me that Martin actually has a 3-second penalty up ahead of me. So I'm trying to just do the best I can. But now I'm starting to lose time, because you can see by that indicator it is turning orange and soon to be red, putting out a huge gap to the cars behind. But I was so determined to keep it within here, because apparently Syra actually has a penalty as well, which I was not aware of. You can see 2.9, then 3.0, and then back down to 2.9. But I was only really focused on Martin. But going for this last sector, we've started to be losing 2 to 3 tenths a lap. So I have to give it everything here, putting it back down to lean just to get the traction. And I'm just pushing as hard as I can. And I think I only have 1 warning so far in this race. So I am able to push as hard as I can. Going through here, the gap is about 2.4 seconds. Going almost flat out here, but the tyres are starting to give way. Using the overtake button, going down into here, the gap is 2.5 seconds. going into his second gear, having some very good rotation, and going for this last sector. Luckily, I feel very, very good through here, so I should be making up some time, which I do ever so slightly, going through into this corner, then into the third to last, and then the penultimate corner, this right-hander, coming off here now. It should be enough, using the overtake button once again, and going across the line. We come home in a podium position, dethroning Martin for that podium position, and only 1/10 behind Syra. And although it wasn't the win, I was just so happy with my performance in that second stint, to be honest. And yeah, I'd never driven fast in my life on a tyre. I honestly haven't. The pace I had there, I felt if I was on the same freshness of tyres as those guys and I had the gap, I feel it could have been a Vietnam scenario in terms of how well I was driving. I felt that good, and having been held in the pits by KJ and losing a second, well over a second, I think. Yeah, I think we could have even got a P2 there, or maybe even still been in the lead group. You never know, considering the pace we had. But in the qualifying, I don't think we really did anything wrong. I think it was a safe thing to do, especially when you have a championship lead. You don't really want to be taking huge risks. But unfortunately, yeah, we could have got through in the mediums, but we didn't know how the weather was going to play at the time. So thank you so much for support my channel on the streams and everything. It has been absolutely immense as always. Please tune in for Baku this Friday for TSRL, round 8 I believe. If you haven't watched Monaco, I will be getting that highlights video probably up on the weekend, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much, and I will catch you very, very soon.